Good morning and welcome to the Business Show on Friday with myself, Chantal.
And me, Matthew.
And I hope you are tuned in for today's show. So today's show is going to be, as you know, it's coronavirus time. So obviously we're not allowed any guests on the show. So this is the show with Matthew and Chantal, basically, from Champ Consultants.
The New Look Business Show.
The New Look, well, the non-guest business show, shall we call it. And we've done a few different themes along the past few weeks. And today's theme is a company or business name, shall we say, basically.
What's in a name?
So what's in a name, yes. How can you choose your name? Some tips and ideas on choosing your business name. And we've got some fantastic stories from people who have forwarded some information so far on how they chose their business name, and we'll give them a shout out. But if you've got a business that you want to have shouted out on the radio today, then please do message us in with your business name, how you chose the name or how the name came about even, and if you can, your website, so that we can give you a shout out at the end of the show as well.
Why did you choose it? How did you choose it? And is there a story behind it? Exactly.
So you can send all that information in. You can email in studio@ridgeradio.co.uk. You can tweet us at Ridge Radio UK.
And we're also on Facebook, The Business Show on Ridge Radio.
Yes, so please remember to also follow us on our Facebook page, so you've got that there. So we're going to start off with some tips and ideas on how to choose a name. And actually, one of our regular listeners, and who had a shout out last week, is Jonathan Doxey from Design JD. And he has actually written 3 blogs that you can read that help you in how to decide on choosing your name. One of them is called How to Create a Memorable Name. One of them is Naming Your Company. And one of them is Choosing a Domain Name.
And that's the very important part of choosing your business name nowadays.
Exactly. So when you do choose your name, and we can listen to how these other people have chosen their names, but one of the things you've got to think about nowadays is not just, in my opinion, not just choosing the name, but also the domain name. Can you get a website? Make sure that website isn't already taken. And your social media handles. They all form part of your whole package, don't they, really? So if you call your company...
And you want it easy to spell. Because when you're reading out your domain name, you don't want to then have to spell it out as well. It makes it doubly difficult.
Yeah. And you will find, actually, that some of the companies that we'll be talking about today, some of them you won't know what they do, and some of them you'll know what they'll do by their name. So that's quite an interesting one as well.
Some of them are so famous as a brand themselves that even though their name is nothing to do with their business, you will instantly recognise them.
But you wouldn't know what they did by their name, though, would you?
No, I mean, the biggest obvious one is Apple, isn't it?
Yeah, so let's do some of them.
Okay.
So Apple is one of them, actually. So I've done a bit of research.
They're greengrocers, are they?
Well, that's what you... I mean, if somebody came up to you and said, I'm just popping into Apple, you wouldn't, unless you knew what Apple was, but I mean, however many years ago...
They're a massive company nowadays. Everyone knows who they are, but...
Yeah. So do you know how it was founded, Matt? The name?
Well, it goes back many, many years. We must have gone, to the 70s or 80s they founded?
Yeah.
I would have thought. I don't know how they came up with the name Apple.
So apparently, the founders, Steve Jobs and...
Steve Wozniak.
Wozniak.
Wasn't he connected to Microsoft in some way?
I don't know.
I think there was a connection, and obviously they were competitors to Microsoft.
Okay, so they visited an apple farm in Oregon together. And Jobs really liked the name because it was fun, spirited, and not intimidating.
And that was it?
And that was it. And from that point onwards, they called their company Apple.
It didn't hold them back that in those early days when they weren't known, people would not know that they were in computers.
Well, not only computers, anything nowadays, isn't it?
Now they've branched out since. But in the early days, it was the old... they were the first competitor to the PC. So.
Exactly. So, it's quite interesting, actually. Some of the other ones I found that these ones have obviously, from the word itself, you would absolutely have no idea what the company
for
did.
New start-up businesses, it's always a big issue trying to choose your name, and do you put what you do within the company name? So you might be Fred's Building Services or Fred's Gardening Services, and
do you put your name in the company name as well? I mean, not everybody
exactly,
does.
Not everyone does. We kind of didn't in ours.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about that one. So, Champ Consultants, as you know, Matthew and I run Champ Consultants, the accountancy firm down in Caterham in the Valley. Yeah. Go on then, Matthew. You tell the story. How did the name Champ Consultants come about?
We were struggling to come up with our name ourselves, weren't we? We were going back about 21, 22 years ago. And one day we were driving on the motorway, and I said to you, "What about Champs?" And you said, "Where'd you get that from?" And I said, "Chantal and Matthew Partners." And that was it.
Exactly.
And that's where the name came from. Simple as that. So it's just the initial letters, Chantal, it's the CH, and Matthew Partners.
And I quite liked Champ because it implied the best.
Yes.
That's what I believe we are.
There you go.
We didn't want to have the word accountants in there because...
And with a surname like Baker, there's plenty of accountants out there already with the name Baker. So Baker and Baker, or Baker and Co, or
Baker Tilly,
or the big ones.
Yeah, we didn't want our name in it though, did we?
I mean, that's quite traditional for accountants to be called, by names, Fred, Joe and Tom.
Yeah. But I always thought that as accountants, we were never what I would call traditional accountants. Firstly, we were run by a woman, so that's not really traditional. No. Well, back 25 years ago, or when we originally first started it,
and
22
also
years ago nearly.
And also more than just basic accounts.
Exactly. We weren't really considering ourselves as being a take your accounts, pick your numbers out and push them back out again. We were here to consult, advise and help you, hence the word consultants. So, so that's how Champ Consultants came about.
It was.
So give a shout out to Champ Consultants. But some of the other famous ones we can
Some of the famous ones, like Apple, have got absolutely nothing to do with their business, and in fact some of them are even made up words.
I know. So one of the made up words actually is Kodak.
And you think, what does Kodak mean? Surely it must stand for something.
It's not.
Doesn't.
It's a completely made-up word. And apparently George Eastman is the man who called his photographic company Kodak because he liked words beginning with the letter K.
And actually what he's done is quite clever because it's a very simple word.
Yeah.
Very easy to spell.
K at the beginning, K at the end, which is what he liked, the letter
and
K.
Obviously he formed his company in the days prior to the internet, but the domain name is nice and short and simple. So, very simple one.
Yeah. So some of the other famous ones, what we'll do is we'll do some of the famous ones before we go on to some local businesses. So if you are one of the local businesses and you do want to shout out, remember to contact us with your information. So a couple of the other famous ones.
Well, I would like to ask you about a restaurant chain called Giraffe. What have giraffes got to do?
Well, hopefully don't eat them
with food. No, they're not. They're not considered a food item. Not like a cow or a sheep.
Exactly.
So, how did he come up with giraffe? I think you know the answer to this one.
Yes. So this one, Russell Joffe, I think that's how you pronounce his name, called his restaurant chain Giraffe because it wanted it to be fun, but he specifically wanted to appeal to families. So hence giraffe being a friendly animal, always intriguing to children, I suppose, because it is so tall. I don't know how long
Giraffe has been going as a restaurant chain, but the first time I think I became aware of it was possibly at the airport because they have a
they have a very regular branches at the airports, don't they? So that's Giraffe. Another famous one we have here is Strada, which is a wood fire pizza business, if anybody doesn't know. It was created in 2001. And it was called Strada because it was an Italian word, and obviously wood fire pizza, Italy, so people wanted it to have that sort of connection. But it was straightforward to spell and easy to pronounce, and therefore he called it Strada, which I believe in Italian means street.
It's a street, yeah.
Exactly. So he just wanted to call it Strada, which has got nothing to do with pizzas at all. Another famous one I have here, Matthew, which you could probably try and maybe let readers know, is Samsung.
Okay, I think are they Japanese or...
Korean.
Korean, okay, so they're Korean. Oh, yes. So Samsung was founded by a chap called Lee... I'm going to mark up this pronunciation. Wayong Chul.
Yeah, sorry for missing it pronunciation.
And actually, in their logo, in the Samsung logo, they have these 3 stars, don't they?
Yes.
Actually, the name means 3 stars or tri-star in Korean. And he wanted his company to last forever, like stars in the sky. And the number 3 represents something big, powerful, and bright in Korean culture, which is why he went for 3 stars.
There you are.
That's why Samsung come. I didn't know that until I just read this.
There you go, you see. So sometimes choosing a company name can be... and don't forget, all these companies that started off these businesses, one day, okay, they're big, massive companies today, but one day they weren't. They were literally sitting maybe in their car or their sofas and thinking, what should I call my company
Those companies we've just read out, I'm just going to compare them to... Well, you mentioned Jonathan, who's done these blogs. He's a former... he's a listener of our show. And I'm just going to see what he says on his blog and compare that to these names and see if we can see... So Jonathan says that the number 1 rule in your mind when naming a company is stay clear from hard to spell or confusing names. While you think it's very different and unique, that won't matter when potential customers can't find your website because they have no idea how to spell it. Also, think about how your name will work with branding. You want a name that is the perfect length to fit on signage and won't look out of place. I think all of those fit that.
Yeah.
Don't they? They're all short, to the point, maybe a little bit different so they stand out, but also easy to spell.
And also probably, I mean, back in those days, I doubt very much they had problems finding their domain names or their social media handles. They probably snapped them up quite quickly.
He says the name should align with your brand values, so making sure it correlates with any kind of message that you want to give out. So, someone like Apple and computers, you don't necessarily think, but it's just they're a little bit different. They're different from PCs. But then a lot of business as well, a bit like Champ Consultants, we have our name, but we also have a strapline. Yeah.
So there where you're portraying your message, if your message is not necessarily portrayed within your company name, your strapline would be there. So example, Champ Consultants, our strapline is your business partner.
But also, all these names do, and as Jonathan says, they don't limit your growth. So if you were an optician and you had Fred's Eyewear, you're kind of limited to being in eye glasses and contact lenses and that sort of thing. Whereas if you wanted to diversify and branch out and do other things, you're not restricted by your name. You don't have to change your name or form a second company. So Apple could branch out into mobile phones, which they have done. They could branch out into
earpods and pens
and speakers and music.
Everything they have.
So and they have. So they're not restricted by their name. So Fred's Garden Services. You wouldn't expect Fred to be, road sweeping or cleaning chimneys.
But then that also depends on what your aim for your company is, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
So if you are one person that all you want to do, look, you know that this is what you want to do and you don't want to grow your business, you don't want to have a big expansion, you don't want to sell, all you want to do is basically do gardening because it's what you love, then, call it that.
Yeah.
It's to the point. Tells everyone what you do. So what else? Is there anything else on there, Matthew?
That's the main points. I mean, Jonathan says what to avoid when you're choosing a domain name and a brand name. It might be tempted to include hyphens, but that just makes things difficult with your domain name and for clients to type your web address correctly. And avoid words that are often misspelt. So don't call yourself Fifth, because that extra F in the middle might confuse some people. Make it something that's easy to spell.
Right.
There we go. And time is of the essence, because once you've thought of the name, grab it quick before someone else gets it.
And not just grab the name, but grab the website, grab the social media handles, do everything. Don't just think to yourself, okay, I've got the company name, I'll form the website next month, I'll do the Instagram and the Twitter, and there's more than just, there's the Instagram, there's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's TikTok.
There's a very famous story in America right now at the moment about an American football team called the Washington Redskins, who are now changing their name. I mean, they've been going for, 80 years or something. They're now changing their name. They're dropping the word Redskins for fairly obvious reasons. And they're looking at getting a new name. Now, at the moment, the start of the season, if COVID allows, is going to be fairly soon, September. So they haven't decided a new name yet. So for this season, they're just going to be called the Washington Football Team, which is in American terms is a bit odd because they all have a nickname after them.
Yeah.
Every day, the New York Giants, Dallas Cowboys. So they're just going to be called Washington Football Team while they decide on a name. Some enterprising lawyer in America has gone and registered the domain names and social media handles of everything he thinks they might be called. So the Washington Senators, the Washington Capitals, So he's registered all those domain names and has offered to sell them to the company when they're ready to decide on their name. So he's sort
of profiting in there just in case.
So lots of people are profiting or trying to profit by choosing all the domain names and buying them all up. So if the Washington Football Team are savvy, they will not make any announcements about what they want to call themselves. And make sure
till the last minute.
Secure those domain names first before they announce it.
So you've just got to be extra careful there, haven't you, really?
Yeah.
Matthew.
Yes.
We're on the Ridge Radio Friday talking about company names or business names even.
And we said before the break that we were going to talk about Ridge Radio and where the Ridge name came from.
Exactly. So just in case anybody doesn't know, Ridge started on the 1st of April 2011. 2011. So that's 9 years ago.
Just over 9 years ago.
And Matthew was one of the original people who started Ridge Radio as the finance director, and you are still the finance director, aren't you?
So that was just over 9 years ago. I was on the management team, and we were struggling to come up with a name.
Yeah. So Matthew, tell us.
And the criteria was it had to be something that we could relate to. Had to be something.
So what was Ridge's aim? So what was the point of the radio? Well, at that time, what was the point of the radio?
The original idea was to have a community project that people could come to, they could volunteer. It started off as maybe a radio for Caterham, and then we decided to be slightly wider with our ambitions. We're on the internet, so we can go wider. But we thought, well, let's look at the whole of the Tandridge, which is a district in East Surrey. And so there's like 21 towns and villages around Tandridge. And so we were struggling to come up with a name. And we put an article in the local newspaper, and it was calling out to everyone to submit names for the radio station. And we had over 100 entries.
Wow, very good.
So we sat down and we were going through all the entries. And there's a group of us doing this, and we narrowed it down to a short list. And most of the names got discounted because the domain name wasn't available, or because there was already a radio station with that name. So there was various reasons why lots of the names couldn't be used. We got down to a short list, and we weren't really that keen. And one of them that some people had come up with was Tandy, because it's Tandridge. Tandy seemed quite nice. But for the older members of the group, we remembered an electrical store back in the 80s called Tandy. And so we couldn't get that out of our head. And so, and everyone was focusing on the start of Tandridge. And we're sitting there thinking, we've done all of this work, we've got all these suggestions, and we can't choose a name. And I just came out with it in that meeting, and I said, well, what about the other end of the word? So why don't we go Ridge, Tandridge? And what about Ridge Radio? And everyone looked around and thought, okay, that sounds okay. So we started Googling, making sure there was no other radio stations called Ridge Radio. The domain name was available. And that was it. We decided there and then. And that was when Ridge Radio was. That was a meeting at the Ark up in Caterham on the Hill, another community building. And we were sitting around a table in the Ark. And that's where we came up with the name.
So there you are. So sometimes, you think and think and think, and sometimes it just pops out your head, doesn't it, really?
Yep, absolutely.
And it fits, doesn't it? And
it fitted the brief. Why I couldn't have come up with it as part of the competition, I don't know. I could have won the prize then, but it wasn't really a prize, just an invite to be at the launch. And a few weeks later, the station was launched. And we had a big opening launch night with lots of DJs having a go and people coming into the studio, and there was lots of noise and celebration. And as I say, the rest is history.
Yeah, 9 years later, I'm still here. Right, so that's the story of Ridge Radio.
Yep.
We've obviously had some,
We've had some
replies and some responses. If you want to be included in one of these responses, you've still got time to message us in on Twitter or on email. If you want to be one of them. So
the next 6 examples that you're going to give are all businesses, small local businesses that have got in contact with us.
Yep.
And all known to us.
All deserve a shout out. Exactly.
Yep.
So, Matthew, do you want to do the first one?
I'll start with the first one then. Adrian Treyer, I believe he's been a guest on this show before. Mm-hmm. And Adrian is a will writer. And his business is called Civil Wills. And Adrian says he started his business in 2004, just at the time that the Civil Partnership Act came in. He says, in his own words, I called my heterosexual company Civil Wills. I don't know if companies can be that. And I've used that name to focus my electronic marketing to the people who are civil partners. And the civil partners can apply to all sorts of people. It doesn't have to be two females or two males. No. It same sex. It can be mixed as well. So he basically said the pink pound generally doesn't have children, and therefore is an affluent market for him to target, and they're more likely to spend on their will. So basically, he's used that name, Civil Wills, to give him a lift up in the Civil Wills market.
Brilliant. And his website?
His website is civilwills.com.
Okay. And what we'll do is we'll shout out all the websites at the end of the show again, just to remind people of these people. Yeah. Another one we have here is Caron Diamond.
Yeah. Now, her husband, John, was a school friend of mine. And it's got a great name, Diamond, but it's Diamond with a Y, not with an I. Yeah. So slightly different spelling. And she is a jewellery business. She makes her own jewellery, doesn't she? She makes her own jewellery. I mean, she's got the name Diamonds already in her name. Brilliant use of that. It's very easy for her. So she's called Diamond Jewellery, and her website's diamondjewellery.co.uk. That's a bit obvious, that one, isn't it? Why she chose that one? Very obvious why she chose that one, but she's a jeweller and she married a diamond. Yeah. What more can you say? Yeah. So another one we've got here, which Justine Hales. I think she's. Yes. You know Justine, don't you, Matthew? Yeah, I've met Justine many a time. She is a brand ambassador for Canaway, and she's been on the show as well, hasn't she? Yeah, she has. Yeah. So Canaway is a hemp product company. They do sort of essential oils and all sorts of products using hemp. Obviously, hemp is part of the cannabis plant, but it's not the hallucinogenic part. It's the legal part of the plant. And she wanted, as an agent for them, she wanted something that would be more reckoned. Canaway as a brand name is a little bit non-descriptive, and she wanted for her own business something that would recognisable and would appeal to people who are interested in hemp products. So she didn't have any trouble with domain names, but she did have some problems with the merchant services, the people that allow customers to pay by card. They didn't understand what she was selling and thought she was selling. Oh, I suppose really they just assume, don't they? Really, assume, and then she basically has to overcome that with them, get them to realise that she's not selling cannabis. But anyway, she's called herself essentially Hemp, and she's going to be launching a new fitness business. She originally came from the fitness industry, and she wants to launch fitness as well. So she's going to keep using the word essential. Okay, it's like almost like a holding branding umbrella name, isn't it? Really? They have easy cars, easy hotels, easy jets. So she's going to use the word essentially. So she likes the idea of having an umbrella concept for her brands, and if she has multiple businesses, she can use that. So she's maybe looking for essentially fitness or whatever her next company is going to be. And so she's using the essentially. So her website is essentially-hemp.com. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing though, isn't it? Sometimes you've got, once you chose your brand, your name, like Justine there, where you've got the word hemp in there, it can be quite difficult because you might send things to people, and people, like she says, I think she says here, doesn't she, that a lot of her emails end up in people's junk folders because she uses the word hemp. So the
whatever, the hosting company just of that email just assumes that it's a junk folder. So it's probably one of those things that you've got to say to people. But you know, don't you? So as an owner, you would say, but be careful, it might end up in your junk folder.
And that goes back to what Jonathan said on his blog about having a name that doesn't restrict you in one product. So essentially hemp, you think, well, that's quite restrictive, but actually by using essentially fitness or essentially services or whatever she's going to go on to, it means she can add other services to her product range.
Yeah, well, I mean, EasyJets have done the same,
they have.
Virgin as well.
Yes.
You have Virgin Trains, you have Virgin Planes, you have Virgin Internet, Virgin Radio. So there's a few that have done that, haven't they, really? And they've just they're almost like their branding name and then just done others as well. Another one we've got here is Shannon McDonald. Matthew, do you want to do that one?
She's from Purple Patch. And that's a virtual PA, so personal assistant, so like a secretary, but she doesn't come to your premises. She does everything online. And Purple Patch itself comes from a meaning of a run of success or good luck.
I didn't know that. Did you know that?
Well, yeah, you talk about people going through a purple patch.
I never knew that until
there you go. And she felt it was absolutely on point for what she wanted her clients to feel. And it just so happened that purple was her favourite colour as well. So
yeah, and sometimes that can work really well, can't it? Like a phrase like that, purple patch.
Yeah.
That literally...
Yep, so you can find Shannon at purplepatch-pa.com.
Yeah, that's really good. Another one we've got here is Anna Haynes from Cavendish French. And actually, I've just bought some of their jewellery. It's absolutely fantastic. So the name Cavendish French originates from when the business was set up 35 years ago, selling vintage-style reproduction jewellery. The business was based in Derbyshire, close to the Cavendish estate, and the jewellery was imported from France, hence the name Cavendish French. They still have the vintage range today, but mainly they specialise in sterling silver and stone set jewellery at very affordable prices. And as I said, actually, I've literally just recently bought some of their jewellery. It comes really beautifully wrapped and everything. And their website is cavendishfrench.com. And it's really interesting to see that from some of these names, as we said at the beginning, like Cavendish French, Purple Patch, you wouldn't necessarily know what they did.
Yeah.
You could guess, but literally you've got absolutely no idea, have you, really? Another one we've got here is HR department.
Yep, and they've been on our show as well before. This email came from Sue, but it was Finton that came on our show.
Actually, this email came from Helen.
Oh, did it come from Helen?
Yeah, it came from Helen, but Sue is actually the founder. So obviously she got the information out of Sue before Helen told me the information.
Helen works with Finton, who was a previous guest on the show.
Yeah, so do you want to read out what she said?
Okay, so Sue describes the HR department when she first started doing interim work, and she traded as Sue Tumulty, and there, how do you spell Tumulty, I can't even pronounce it, let alone spell it. It's got an E, not a U in it. So she was trading as Sue Tumulty Services Limited, which was obviously not going to set the world on fire. Once the idea of providing services to SMEs was developed, she realised that she needed some branding. She went to see a company who, at the time, were called Studio 6, explained what she wanted to offer, and John from Studio 6 said, "So you are the HR department." And the name was born. We got the domain name, and Studio 6 became the first retained client. All those years later, they are now called 6, and they are still a client, and the name is brilliant because we do what it says on the box.
Effectively.
So they are your HR department on the end of the phone. So, and they're hr.co.uk. Now, Sue...
HRDEPT, isn't it?
DEPT, yeah. So she has franchised out her business. So
yes.
I don't know where Sue lives in the country, but there are HR DEPs all over the country, all run by franchisees. And, Sue is now the franchisor. So she provides the structure and the service to all these other firms, and
that's another way of looking at growing and expanding your businesses. There's different ways of growing and expanding, isn't there? And one of them is franchising, or maybe that's one of the shows we should do. different ways of growing and expanding your businesses, really.
Yeah.
So some of the other ones, have we got any more on here that have messaged us in?
That's all the ones that have messaged us so far.
Yeah, so if you do, we will shout out these websites at the end of the show again, as I've said. If you want your business shouted out, then please do let us know, and we can, just checking, I haven't had any in so far yet, and we can just make sure they get shouted out today as well on the radio show. So the name is, as we've said, it's not just your name that it's important, but like Matthew said, when deciding on the Ridge Radio name, some of the names might have been absolutely perfect for the radio station, but it was an internet-based radio station, which meant that you had to have a domain name, which had to have a website. And today, you can't really run a business without a website.
Correct.
And I think that probably coronavirus, or COVID-19, however you want to call it, has shown us that you can't just rely on having a shop and people knocking on your shop and trying to buy your products. You need, because once we were on lockdown, your shops had to close.
Yeah.
So you needed another way to market your business, which had to be possibly the internet and social media.
Yeah, those that could do online sales and deliveries thrived.
Exactly. So you had to basically carry on. And I think that even though the shops are now opened, and please remember that if you do go shopping today, you must wear a mask.
Yeah, the mask rule comes in today, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is compulsory, and we don't really want to risk anybody else's lives by you not wearing a mask.
And please don't take it out on the shop staff if they ask you to put on a mask.
Yeah, it's your responsibility. Let's just all be responsible. We're all adults, and we should just all just be responsible and wear our masks. Or face coverings, whatever you want to call them.
A face covering is probably a better word, because you could just use a scarf.
Yeah, so face coverings, anything that's going to protect you and protect everybody else in that building. But as the shops start opening now, people might be a little bit more apprehensive of going out and getting their shops, going out and doing their shopping and stuff like that. So it is really important that you keep your website up to date, keep your social media up there and all things like that, to make sure that you do give opportunities to people in order for them to be able to contact you, so just in case they can't come to who you are. I mean, I suppose if you're a service industry like us at Champs, a lot of our stuff is done by Zoom meetings and things. A lot of stuff is starting to happen face to face now, but a lot of it is via Zoom meetings and things like that.
Streaming 24/7. Ridge Radio.
Champ Consultants is an award-winning independent firm of highly experienced, qualified accountants and tax advisors based in Caterham, providing a fully comprehensive range of accountancy and tax services. If you would like simple but creative answers to your tax problems, call Champ Consultants, your business partner, on 01883 349 300.
More music with more music variety on Ridge Radio.
And welcome back to the last 10-15 minutes or so on today's show. So today we've been talking
about names,
about company names. We've had some local businesses that have let us know their company names, and hopefully we will repeat them to you later on so that we can remind you of these businesses that you can support, basically.
I'm going to ask you about some big brands now.
Okay.
Some big names, and some of them you'll know the answer, I think. I'm hoping I'll find some that you don't know.
Okay. So, I have done a lot of research, Matthew.
Okay,
so we can,
all right. Well, let's see.
It's quite my
I'll start with
here.
an easy one. Okay. So there's a very famous coffee company called Starbucks.
Right.
Okay. Can you picture their logo?
I can.
It's like a green circle. It says Starbucks coffee, and there's a particular picture within that logo.
Yes.
So does that give you an idea of where their name came from?
Well, I happen to know that their name came from a character from the Moby Dick book.
That's right.
Starbuck from the Moby Dick book, actually. So yes, I
For those of a certain age, i.e. my age, will remember there was a character called Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica as well.
Oh, was there?
Yeah,
well, no, but they got that one from Moby Dick.
Everyone
I
wanted
know
to
that
be
one.
Starbuck. No one wanted to be the other guy. So,
oh, right. Okay, then.
Yeah. And it also comes from the fact that the founders of Starbucks thought that the character and the tradition of the sea, it evoked the romance of the high seas and the seafaring tradition of the early coffee traders.
Okay.
Okay. Well, what about IKEA. Bit harder this one because it's a Swedish company.
IKEA. I have no idea, actually, how that name originated.
Okay, so what does that name have to do with furniture and endless jokes about getting lost in their stores? Not much, really.
No, not spending days either, putting things together.
This is one that's a bit like Champs. It's initials, the letters. So the I and the K come from the founder, who was Ingvar Kamprad.
Okay.
And the first letters of the names of the property and the village in which he grew up. So he grew up in Elmtarid Agunnard. So that was IKEA came from, and became IKEA.
Oh.
So that was a very difficult one. I didn't expect you to get that one.
No, I had no idea how I got that one.
What about Pepsi? Do you know Pepsi?
No, I don't.
Okay, so...
Obviously, I didn't do enough research then, did I, Matthew?
No, I don't know which one companies you've been researching, but
Lego,
it gets its name from... There's a digestive enzyme called pepsin, and it was originally... the drink was marketed as a healthy drink that would aid digestion.
Oh.
So there you go.
Well, I don't think people today would say... Well, I don't know, actually. Some people say, don't they? If you've got a bit of a tummy bug or you're feeling a bit nauseous, you should just go and have a Pepsi.
Or any fizzy drink, but yeah.
Well, no, normally it's Pepsi or Coke, but...
okay.
I suppose they're in competition with each other, so then...
I use lemonade, but there we go. What about Nike? You must know Nike.
Nike... Oh, I can't remember. I do know this one, but I can't remember it.
Does the swoosh give
the
you a
big
clue?
tick.
Yeah. It's basically named after a Greek goddess of victory.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. Now, here's a good one. Yahoo. It's an acronym, so the letters stand for something. You're not going to get it. If you don't know it, you're not going to get it.
No, I'm not going to get it then.
Okay. So it's for yet another hierarchical officious oracle.
That's it. Yet another. I remember it was yet another now, but I can't remember all the other bits that you said there. So, yes.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at this, am I? Is there any others? Lego. I think Lego comes from a Swedish word, if I'm not mistaken, which means to build.
Danish, I think.
Danish word, which means to build. And that's how they got the word
eBay?
Lego. eBay.
Yeah. Doesn't really evoke an auction, does it?
No. Is it something to do with electronics selling?
The founder was a chap called Pierre Omidyar.
So obviously didn't take his name for anything then.
He had a web consulting company and called the Echo Bay Technology Group.
Okay.
And he wanted the website echobay.com, but a gold mining company already had that domain. So he took what he thought was the second best name, which was ebay.com. And the rest is history. Volkswagen, the car. Do you know where the Volkswagen comes from?
No.
That's actually a German word. It means people's car. Volks is people and Wagen is car in German. So
that's the thing, though. You could take a bit like Samsung took with their 3 stars, being a Korean word, I suppose. Really, you take Strada. You take foreign words and use them. People don't necessarily have to assume that it's the language in which they could work multinationally and lots of international things, isn't it? Really.
And then you got Asics, which is the trainer company. They're into all their running clothing and running shoes. Their name comes from Latin, so it's anima sana in corpore sano. So anima sana in corpore sano. Any idea what that means?
No.
Testing your Latin? No, you don't know. It means healthy soul in a healthy body.
Ah. Healthy soul as in S-O-U-L.
Correct.
Not S-O-L-E.
Yeah, not the feet.
Not the foot.
Not the feet, no.
It would be quite apt if it was the foot and they were doing trainers, wouldn't it, really?
Okay, what about Google?
Oh, Google comes from the word a Google.
Correct. Well,
however, it's a slight spelling difference.
Yes.
And Google is, I think, G-O-O-G-O-L. However, if you were, did you know this? That if you were to go onto the internet and type in Google.com, it would automatically change it for you to Google.com. Yeah, it's an automatic default that they've been able to do. That a Google, they can change it to, which obviously means a Google is however many.
It's the number 1 followed by 100 zeros.
Right, there you are then.
So it's a very big number.
Yeah, but obviously I think the person who actually wrote down the name happened to be dyslexic, and he wrote it as phonetically as he would say it, and they preferred it, and he set up the website as that already, and they didn't have a choice. They had to stick with it then. They couldn't really change it after that.
Yeah. Well,
so
the famous ballpoint pen, BIC, B-I-C.
All right, yeah.
Now that's quite an interesting one, because this goes back to the advice we gave earlier in the show. He was a German chap, and his surname was Bisch, B-I-C-H, but in German it's pronounced BIC. And he realised very early on in his business career that his surname is mispronounced by English people, who would say the CH as a sh sound. So he was Bisch instead of Bic. So he dropped the H and became Bic. And it's pronounced much more consistently across many, many countries.
Ah.
So that was very well thought out, I think.
Yeah, interesting, really. Quite interesting, all these different, and it makes it really, if you were starting up a business today, I think it's quite fun looking and interesting how other people have chosen their names, because if you are looking at choosing a name for your business, it's sometimes you need to have what it obviously does. Another one, obviously, I'm just thinking of another business that actually I wrote about on one of my social media channels, is Silent Pool. They're a local business.
They are.
Silent Pool.
They're a gin distillery, aren't they?
Exactly. But from their name, you wouldn't necessarily know what they did, would you? So it's quite interesting,
we've got time
really.
For one more?
Yeah, we've got time for one more.
One more. Haagen-Dazs, the ice cream people.
Oh, silence. I can't remember that one.
No? Well, you wouldn't remember it because it's a completely made-up name.
Oh, is it?
Just completely made up, random, means nothing.
Just made it up.
It looks, because it's got the double dot over the umlaut over the A.
It looks like it should be a proper word.
You think it should be Dutch or German or Danish or something, but no, it's just a made-up name to make their ice cream sound a bit more exotic.
Oh.
Okay.
It's quite funny how these people can just make up, like Kodak and Haagen-Dazs. I mean, making up words must be so hard when you've got a whole dictionary. Well, not just one dictionary. You've got like every language is dictionary, and yet you can still come up with made-up words.
But I think the world is much more a smaller place nowadays, and there's much more opportunity for international trade.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to be a little bit more open. If you're going to sell any kind of product, you need to think about how people are going to pronounce your name, how they're going to spell it, how they're going to find your website. And you've got to think about it in more than one country, like Mr. Bick did.
And also, you've got to think about, example, a word, example, Samsung, can mean something in Korean, but it might mean something completely different in another language.
Yeah.
So sometimes you've just got to be a little bit careful, I suppose. You don't want to offend other cultures with your words.
Yes, that could be a whole other show of names that have come out of other countries that have been laughable to the English language. But, that's just lost in translation type errors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yes. So we're going to give a shout out to all those, final shout out to all those businesses that have contacted us and have provided us with a bit of a story as to why they chose their names, and hopefully those listening to the show now or those listening to the show in the future, and we'll be able to tell you how you can listen to the show in the future, will go ahead and look up these companies, and hopefully please support them. So one of them is Justine Hales from Essentially Hemp, and that is essentially-hemp.com.
And she sells hemp products.
Yeah, exactly. We have Jonathan Doxey, who obviously provided us, he didn't tell us his story, but he provided us with some of his blogs, which we've looked at and explained, but you can look at those yourself as well. And that's Jonathan Doxey, and his company is designjd.co.uk.
I'd like to think I know where that name came from.
I reckon he does designing stuff.
He does.
And his name is Jonathan Doxey, so JD.
Yeah, he could have gone JD Design, you see.
But design he wanted to do
Design JD,
first, because otherwise
yeah.
there's too many D's after the word.
Could be, yeah, because it's a double D.
It'll be a double D in an in a website.
Yeah, I think you might be right
That's
there.
me guessing, John. Then hopefully I'm right.
He'll get in touch if that's wrong.
No, in the way you might think. So that is designjd.co.uk.
Yep. We had Curran from Diamond Jewellery, and Diamond is spelt DYMOND, so diamondjewellery.co.uk, and she's a jeweller with the surname of Diamond.
Yeah.
That's quite handy in her trade.
We have Cavendish French, and they are jewellers, and they are cavendishfrench.com. And they do have an online online website as well, so you can buy their stuff online. So they are cavendishfrench.com.
Yeah, we had Adrian Treyer from Civil Wills, that's civilwills.com, and he writes wills and probate.
Mm-hmm. We had Shannon McDonald from Purple Patch, and she is purplepatch-pa.com.
And she's a virtual assistant, so she can do all sorts of admin for your business. And the final one was the HR department, originally founded by a lady called Sue Tomelty, although our local HR department representatives are Finton and Helen. And they're at HR Dept, so D-E-P-T. They've shortened the word department to D-E-P-T, so hrdept.co.uk.
Yeah. And they're the shout-out ones.
Absolutely.
So, we have come to the end of our show today. Hope you have enjoyed it. Please do support all our local businesses. They need our support now more than ever. They have had a lockdown for quite a long time, and some of these businesses really, really do need your support right now. So please do go out and support them. You can contact us at any time using the email address studio@ridgeradio.co.uk. You can contact us via Twitter at Ridge Radio UK, and you can contact us via our Facebook page, Business Show on Ridge Radio. And please do, if you don't already follow us on the Business Show on Ridge Radio Facebook page. Our show is available to listen again on our Listen Again feature, which is mixcloud.com/Chantal Baker. But we have some exciting news in that we will be putting some of our shows up as podcasts soon. So that should be done hopefully
if we
in the
can
next...
work out the technology.
Hopefully that should be in the next couple of weeks. We should be able to
And we'll give you
that.
some more links to that on future shows.
Exactly.
Once that's set up.
Yeah, once that's set up. Next week, we are going to... We're in this theme at the moment where we're trying to support local businesses. So we want to give shout-outs to all local businesses. So if you are a local business and you are taking part in the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, which starts on basically for the whole of the month of August. But
I think it's the 3rd of August it starts.
Yeah, so Monday, the 3rd of August, because it's Monday, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. If you are one of those businesses, please do contact us, let us know, so we can give you a shout out. We're hopefully going to have a full range of restaurants in the Tandridge area, maybe of surrounding areas as well.
Yeah, any restaurant that gets in touch with us from Tandridge or close to Tandridge, we'll be discussing those restaurants.
Yeah, we'll be looking at those and letting everyone know that you are part of the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, and we'll be doing that on next week's show, which is the 31st of July, just in time for the August kick-off time. That's it from Matthew and myself for today. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Matthew and I will see you again next Friday.
Thank you very much for listening. See you again.